Hello, hola. Yo soy abogada de inmigración Kalani Hawks Villafranca. I am immigration attorney Kalani Hawks Villafranca. And we're here to talk about DACA. Have you been waiting to apply for DACA for the very first time? Well, if you have, then I have some really good news because DACA first-time applications are going to be available really, really soon. And I want to talk to you today about how you can get ready to apply. So first, I want to talk about DACA. What is DACA? Why has the DACA program changed? And why are we at a place right now where you can apply for DACA for the very first time? Then I want to talk about why, even though you can apply right now, you shouldn't. I want you to wait to apply. Don't apply just yet. And then I want to talk to you about how to get ready so you can have all your paperwork ready, everything you need together so that when DACA applications are open again, that you can move forward and get that status that you have been waiting for. So what is DACA? DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's a program that was created by President Obama. It's not a law. It was not created by Congress, and that means it is subject to the will of the president, who can change the program from time to time. Now, the president can't change the program whenever he wants and do whatever he wants with it. And how do we know this? Because the courts have said so. So, President Obama created DACA to give status to certain individuals who arrived in the country as children, who fulfilled certain educational requirements and stayed out of trouble with the police. In a little bit, we're going to go over exactly what you need to show to be able to prove that you're eligible for DACA. But first, I want to give you a little backstory about DACA to show how we got here today. So, DACA was created by President Obama. Then President Trump took office 4 years ago, and he tried to cancel that program almost immediately. The last 4 years have been full of legal challenges for DACA. There have been many, many court rulings. And over time, the DACA case worked its way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. And the Supreme Court this summer, in summer of 2020, said the way in which the Trump presidency canceled DACA wasn't lawful. And they didn't follow the rules they were supposed to follow in order to be able to change the program, which meant DACA was still available. Oh, that sounds like great news, but the Trump administration is extremely anti-DACA. They have never been supportive of DACA, and they continue to not be supportive of DACA. So even though the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that they had to start accepting DACA initial applications again, that they should be accepting and reviewing applications from people who've never had DACA, they're still not doing that. They have not done it since the Supreme Court ruled this summer, several months ago. However, another court ruled recently that the Trump administration has to follow the Supreme Court's ruling. They need to start accepting initial DACA applications. So we have an additional court that has said that Trump needs to start accepting first-time DACA applications. Frankly, I don't have a lot of hope that that's going to happen. It might, but I think what is much more likely is that the Trump administration is going to continue to drag their feet, issue rulings that are unconstitutional or unlawful, and generally ignore the Supreme Court. But that when President-elect President-elect Biden, who was President Obama's vice president and who was very supportive of DACA, when he becomes president in January, we anticipate that DACA will be 100% available again, just as it was before, that his administration will not seek to cancel DACA and will follow the Supreme Court's order mandating that first-time DACA applications be accepted. And so that's really soon. We're at the beginning of December right now. In 8 weeks, we'll have a new president, and that president is fully supportive of DACA. So I want you to be ready now to submit your application then. Now, who is eligible for DACA? Let's talk about it. To be eligible for DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, you have to have some very important things be true about you as of June 15th, 2012. So I want you to remember that date. June 15th, 2012 is the day that DACA was announced. On that date, you had to have been living in the United States, physically present in the United States. You can't have been on vacation. You could not have been out of the country. You have to be physically present in the United States on June 15th, 2012, and not have any legal status. If you were in the United States on June 15th, 2012, but you had a valid visitor visa, you're not eligible for DACA. If you had a valid student visa, you're not eligible for DACA. You're only eligible for DACA if you were here on that date in the United States without any lawful immigration status. And you came to the US before you were 16 years old. So you had to have come to the US for the first time before you were 16 years old. You have to have lived in the US continuously since June 15th, 2007. So that's 5 years before DACA was started. So you had to have been in the US at least 5 years before DACA was announced. And you have to meet certain educational requirements. So to qualify for DACA, you need to be able to show that you are either enrolled in school and have already graduated from school or gotten your GED, or if you can't meet those educational requirements, you can show that you have served in the US military in some capacity, like the Coast Guard or the reserves. You also, last but not least, need to show that you've stayed out of trouble with the law. Now, certain criminal violations or charges or arrests will not make you ineligible for DACA, but they're going to make your case harder. If you've had any contact with law enforcement ever before you apply for any immigration benefit, I want you to talk to an attorney. Don't make that mistake. I don't want you to try and figure out on your own how your criminal history impacts your case, and especially for DACA. I don't want you to give your information to the government for the first time if you have criminal history, unless your criminal history has been really carefully analyzed by an immigration attorney who knows how that might impact the risk to your case. Okay, so is that you? Are you eligible for DACA for the first time? Because if it is, I really am excited for you and I want you to get ready and have your paperwork together so that you can submit an application as soon as they are being accepted again. That could happen any day. We might get an order from an additional court ordering the Trump administration to start accepting first-time DACA applications, or the administration itself could choose to follow the law and start accepting applications. But more likely what's going to happen is that you're going to wait until President-elect Biden takes office at the end of January, on January 20th. And after that, we expect DACA first-time applications to be ready to go, ready to be accepted. So what do you need to do to get ready? Okay, well, you need to be able to document every single piece of your eligibility. Woo, that can be kind of hard because at this point, if you're eligible for DACA, you've been in the United States since at least 2007. That's 13 years. We're going to have to be able to show that you've been in the United States the whole time, and we're going to need to produce one document at least every 3 months showing you've been living here since 2007. So let's talk through how we do that. First, let's talk about the easy stuff. The easy things to prove are your educational history. So if you graduated from high school, if you got your GED, if you graduated from college, you want to make sure you have those documents handy to be able to show that you've complied with the educational requirements for DACA. The other pretty easy thing is criminal history. If you have no criminal history, done. If you've never had any contact with law enforcement, you don't need any documents to prove that. But if you've ever had any contact with law enforcement, and I mean arrests, traffic tickets, charges, even if they were dismissed, anything that was expunged, anything that was a juvenile record, you need all that. And it can take some time to find those records. So if you've ever had contact with law enforcement, I want you now, starting right now, to start looking for all those documents. You're going to need a document to show what the charge was. You're going to need a document to show when it happened, where it happened, and what the outcome was. And that's true even if your charge has been expunged or sealed. Immigration does not care. Your expungement or your sealing is true only for state, domestic, federal issues. It's not true for immigration. Immigration does not care if you have had your case sealed. So you still need to produce that information. So start looking for those documents now. Okay, so that's the fairly straightforward stuff. The harder stuff is if you're going to ask for DACA for the first time, we got to get a document for every 3 months that you've lived here since at least 2007. That's a long time. So let's talk about how we do that. We got to get creative. The easiest way we can do that is by using your school records. So if you got here when you were 6 and you've been in school since then, either elementary school, high school, college, it's pretty straightforward to show your presence in the United States. We'll get your school transcripts. So I want you to go to your mom, to your dad, to your closet, your own records, wherever you keep your documents. And if you don't have these things, go to your school. Start getting this info now so that you're ready to apply as soon as applications are open. So get your school transcripts, get your medical records, go get your vaccination records. If you went to public school in the US, you were required to have certain vaccinations unless you were exempt, and not that many people ask for exemption. So you probably have some vaccination records. Get any medical records that your parents have from when you were little. that show the dates that you had doctor's appointments, right? Because if you went to the doctor in Austin or San Antonio or Houston in July of 2012, that means you were living in the US on that date. So get doctor's records. What else? Oh, here's a good one. Sometimes it's really hard for you to prove that you were in the US when you were 2, right? That's really challenging. But oftentimes your name will be listed on your parents' documents. So say your parents leased an apartment in El Paso. And on that document lease, it listed every single person who was living in the apartment. It's going to have your name on it. And it's going to show you were living in the United States. So we can get creative. There are a ton of ways to show that you were living in the United States at a particular time. Sometimes we can use photos. If you went to a birthday party, and you were in an iconic location that only exists in the United States, and there's a picture of you at this place, right? Let's say you're at the Alamo in San Antonio. That's in the US. And if you know when that event was, we can explain when that was and show that you were here in the US. So I want you to think big, think outside the box. There are so many ways to prove that you have been living in the United States since 2007, but don't take it lightly. Don't skip over anything. Immigration is going to want to see a document every 3 months for the entire time period you have lived here since at least 2007 up till now. So start getting that stuff together now. If you're lucky and you've been in school the whole time, it's easy. But if not, we're going to need to start getting a little more creative on how we can do it. Sometimes we can get affidavits from people who've known you saying that they know you were in the United States, but that is not the best evidence. The best evidence are specific documents that have dates on them that we can show you were here and not somebody else's word saying you were here. We want actual documents. Okay, 2 other things I really want you to focus on is we need a document that is really clear that you were in the United States on June 15th, 2012 when DACA was announced. It can be really hard to get a document that specific. So start thinking about it now. Think about what you have. Facebook existed then. Did your parents or your friends post stuff on Facebook at the time? Did you check in somewhere showing that you had gone somewhere? And we could use that info showing that you were in the United States. But the physical presence in the United States on June 15th, 2012 can be one of the most challenging aspects of proving your eligibility for DACA. So I want you to start thinking about that now. You need a document really close to that date, if not on that date, to be able to prove your eligibility. All right, so we've talked about physical presence. You're gonna need your birth certificate. That'll just show how old you were, where you were born. If you don't have that, many of my clients are Mexican. The Mexican consulate can help you get a copy of your birth certificate. There's one here in Austin. There are many others in the state of Texas and around the country. Give them a call and they can help you get an original certified copy of your birth certificate that'll work for immigration purposes. You don't need to go to Mexico to get it. The Mexican consulate in the United States can help you get those documents. We have to show you came to the US before you were 16. So a lot of these documents together will help tell that story. So for example, if you were in school here when you were 6, that's good enough. That'll prove that you were here before you were 16. But just make sure you have a document that shows that. You'll need your educational info like we mentioned, no major criminal history. And last but not least, you have to be 15 years old to apply for DACA for the very first time. The only exception is if you are already in deportation proceedings or you have a final order of deportation, then you can apply if you're younger than 15. But for most people, for most of you and for most of my clients, you have to be at least 15 years old to apply. So let's get started. I want you to go start looking for your documents now. I want you to try and find a document for every 3 months that you have lived in the United States. Some documents can be used for more than one thing, but your physical presence in the United States is going to be the hardest thing to prove for your case if you're applying now for the very first time. So get started. Let's start looking for those documents. If you want to schedule a consultation, I'm already doing consultations to help people start preparing. My phone number is 512-675-2945. We can schedule a consultation. We'll go over the list of documents together. We'll brainstorm what you need. I'll send you home with the list that I use with my clients so that you'll be ready to go over all that information with your parents or whoever else might be able to help you. And you can get everything together and be ready to go so that once new applications are being accepted, you can file immediately. I would expect that by the first week of February, we'll be filing new DACA applications. So I want you to be ready by then. However, it's possible that applications could be accepted sooner. So start now. Let's go ahead and get everything together. Call me and schedule a consultation so we can talk through any issues that you might have. 512-675-2945. I look forward to helping you, and I'm really excited to start doing first-time DACA applications again and to help you get the status that you deserve here in the United States. Bueno, hasta la semana que viene. Hasta luego.